You've read lots of things about what it's like to work with you. Some people say that you're really tough, that you're really difficult. And other people have said, no, she's really a sweetheart. So are you a sweetheart or are you difficult?
Yes.
Do you think men are important? Like for what?
My mom said to me, you know, sweetheart, one day you should settle down and marry a rich man. And I said, Mom, I am a rich man.
Hey friend, welcome to my channel karinealourde, where we deep dive and break down the most iconic stars in history. If you're not yet subscribed, please be sure to do so and turn your notifications on so you never miss an upload. So today we are breaking down the iconic Cher. She has had a very long career. She was out and popular since the 60s. Cher is commonly referred to by the media as the goddess of pop. Bigo stated, "No one in the history of show business has had a career of the magnitude and scope of Cher's. She has been a teenage pop star, a television hostess, a fashion magazine model, a rock star, a pop singer, a Broadway actress, an Academy Award-winning movie star, a disco sensation, and the subject of a mountain of press coverages." End quote. And as a solo artist, Cher has sold 100 million records worldwide, and that includes the 40 million that she sold as the duo Sonny and Cher, making her one of the best-selling music artists of all time. She is an EGOT winner, which means she got an Emmy, a Grammys, an Oscar, and a Tony Award. And in 1988, Cher became the first performer to receive an Academy Award for acting and an RIAA-certified gold album in the same year since the inception of Gold Awards in 1958. Cher today is mostly known for getting attention for her provocative lifestyle. That includes, the tattoos, all the plastic surgeries, her revealing clothes, as well as her affairs with younger men, which we'll get into later onto the video. But what she's most known for, which I want to focus on first before we get into her childhood and all of that, is her fashion. She is a fashion icon. Time magazine's Caddy Lang describes Cher as a cultural phenomenon who has forever changed the way we see celebrity fashion. Cher was a fashion leader in the 1960s. She made bell-bottoms, bandanas, and Cherokee-inspired tunics popular. And Diana Vreeland, who was the editor of Vogue magazine at the time, saw her at a party for Jacqueline Kennedy in 1967 and hired her as a model. So Billboard wrote that Cher has transformed fashion and became one of the most influential style icons in red carpet history. Cher's 1970s TV show made her a sensual icon because of the creative and revealing clothes that Bob Mackie made for her. She even fought the network censors to show her belly button. Even though Cher was not the first woman to show her navel on TV, she was the most famous to do so since the American Code of Practices for Television Broadcasters was put in place in 1951. So Vogue proclaimed Cher their favorite fashion trendsetter. That's a lot coming from Vogue, okay? And they wrote that she set the grounds for pop stars and celebrities today, which I agree with. Many have been influenced by Cher, describing her as eternally relevant and the ruler of reinvention. Cher has been in the news because of how she looks, especially how young she looks. People have even called her a vampire who never aged. But she's also been in the news for how many tattoos she had, which she has since been lasically removing. She has been called the poster girl of plastic surgery by many journalists. Cher has said that she has had her breast enlarged, her nose fixed, veneers put on, and her face lifted. And this is a quote from her. She said, "Yes, I've had a facelift, but who hasn't? I've become the face of plastic surgery." There were also rumors that she had her ribs taken out to make her waist smaller. I believe there's rumors also that Kim Kardashian herself has done the same thing. And Kim Kardashian is heavily influenced by Cher, and she has said that maybe it's the Armenian background.
Only to be replaced by reports that Cher has had extensive cosmetic surgery. Cher admits to having her nose, teeth, and breasts worked on, but there is endless speculation about what else she's done, from cheek implants to rib removal.
Everybody can think whatever they want to about who I am. I mean, they're going to anyway. On one hand, they really want me to look good, but on another hand, it makes it easier for them if they can say that everything I have, I've bought.
And Cher also said that she had Botox and fillers, laser resurfacing, and vampire facials to keep her looking young. And what vampire facials are, if you don't know, is when they use your own blood and they kind of like poke tiny micro little needles into your skin and then take your own blood and do a face mask with it. Ugh, I don't know, comment below if you've ever done one or if you would do one, but it allegedly keeps you very young. Also doesn't drink or smoke and eats very healthy to maintain all the work she's done as well as her figure, okay? In 2016, Cher admitted in an interview with Marie Shriver that she was not entirely satisfied with herself, stating, "I'm never satisfied. I've never really been in love with Cher. She's all right, but it's like I'm not a huge fan." And I thought Cher was stunning before all the surgeries. That's just my unpopular opinion. I really found her very stunning. Her face, it was different and it stood out in the industry, but nonetheless, she liked to do things just to surprise people. She still does. She loves a good shock value. She'll stir up trouble and then tell her critics to go to hell. She started getting laser treatments to get rid of her tattoos in the late 1990s, and in the 2000s, the process was still going on. And she said, "When I got a tattoo, only bad girls did it. Like me, Janis Joplin, and biker chicks," she said. "It no longer means anything. No one is shocked." So that's why she's sticking it out. Doesn't that sound familiar to all the influencers and the Kardashians reducing their BBLs because too many people now has it? It's no longer, they no longer stand out. So now let's get into her childhood. But before we do, did you know that her favorite colors are brown and dark red? And she has hobbies of singing, surfing the internet, acting, and eating. And her favorite actress is Katharine Hepburn. These are just some fun facts in case you didn't know. Now, Cher was born on May 20th, 1946 in El Centro, California. Her father, John Sarkeesian, was an Armenian-American truck driver who had problems with substance use and gambling. And her mother, Georgia Holt, is a former model and retired actress who said she had Irish, English, German, and Cherokee ancestry. So Cher's father was rarely around when she was a baby. And when she was 10 months old, her parents did get divorced. But she still thinks of him as her father and remembers him as a good-natured man who got angry when he drank too much. Cher's mother started acting while she was working as a waitress in LA, where she now lives. She went by the name Georgia Holt and had small parts in movies and on TV. Holt also got her daughter parts as an extra on TV shows like The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet. Her mother got married and divorced a few more times, and she moved around the country with her family. They didn't always have much money, and Cher said she had to use rubber bands to keep her shoes together. Cher's mother once left her for a few weeks at an orphanage. Even though they saw each other every day, it was upsetting for both of them.
19 years old and married to John Sarkeesian, an Armenian-American truck driver with a drug and gambling addiction, Georgia Holt shared the same fears held by many expectant mothers and contemplated the idea of aborting her child. May 20th, 1946, Sherilyn Sarkeesian is brought into the world. By the time she had turned 1, her parents had completed their divorce. The social pressures shouldered by the young mother drove her to place Cher under the care of nuns at the local Catholic orphanage. The ordeal caused pain and trauma, leading her to question where her place in the world was.
Georgia struggled to raise Cher and her sister Georgianne.
My big thing was every September of praying to God that I would have enough money to get them saddle Oxfords for school.
My grandmother picked cotton with my mother on the gunny sack. My mother had a job where you called in every day to see if you had a job for the next day. And so I had to put rubber bands around the soles of my shoes so I could walk to school. So when I say I understand what people are going through, you never forget this.
I was complaining about having no shoes until I saw the man who had no feet.
Cher's mother was an aspiring actress, and Cher knew early on she would follow in her mom's footsteps. Cher was 11 years old before she finally met her birth father. John Sarkeesian hadn't given his daughter much, but she had inherited his dark good looks.
She learned to drive and could be seen cruising around downtown LA at the age of 13, only to be pulled over by police and booked a year later.
Cher put on a play of the musical Oklahoma for her teachers in class when she was in the 5th grade, and she got a group of girls together and put everything together, basically. She played the male parts because she couldn't get any boys to come and do the part. By the time she was 9, she had a voice that was very low for her age. She was sad that there wasn't any dark-haired actresses in Hollywood that she could look up to. She had wanted to be famous since she was a child, but she didn't think she was pretty or talented. She said, I couldn't come up with anything to do. I never thought I'd be able to sing or dance. I just thought, well, I guess I'll be famous. And that's what she wanted to be. Her goal was to be famous, not even for anything in particular. Cher enrolled at the private Montclair College preparatory school, where the majority of the students came from wealthy families. As her biographer Connie Berman noted, Cher found it difficult to fit in with other students because of both her striking appearance and outgoing personality. And according to a former classmate, that said, the first time I saw Cher will always be a special memory for me. She was really exceptional. Instantaneously, she resembled a movie star. We were confident she would become a movie star when she predicted it. Cher was smart and very talented, even though she wasn't a great student, but we'll find out why she wasn't a great student later. According to Berman, her biographer, she excelled in her classes of French and English, receiving very good grades. She found out she had dyslexia as an adult, though.
I was dyslexic. Well, I'm still dyslexic. But it was very difficult for me as a child because I failed. I couldn't read. I still can't see numbers very well. There was nothing about me that screamed movie star or icon or anything.
And she had very outlandish actions, okay? She used to sing for the students during lunchtime, and she even shocked her peers by donning a midriff-bearing top. Later on, she remembered, I never actually attended school. I frequently imagined myself as a famous adult. Now, as far as her career, at 16, Cher did quit school. She moved out of her mother's house and went to live with a friend in LA. One of the reasons that she dropped out was that she had trouble reading and writing. At the age of 30, she found out that she had dyslexia, but she didn't know when she was younger. And she now thinks this is why she did poorly in school. In a recent interview, she said she always got C and D grades. Cher also said that she felt like her teachers had let her down because they didn't notice that she had dyslexia and didn't get her diagnosed. It's interesting because I believe Tom Cruise has the same thing, and they ended up dating. It's interesting. She took acting lessons and earned money to pay for them by dancing in clubs along the Sunset Strip in Hollywood, where she was able to meet actors, managers, and agents. Cher was definitely not timid about walking up to anyone who could help progress her career. She found some luck because in November 1962, when Sonny Bono, which is a match made in history for her, worked, well, for her career. He worked for record producer Phil Spector. When Cher's friend moved out, Sonny asked Cher to clean his house. So she said yes, and then she was a backup singer on many of Spector's recordings after Sonny told him about it. Many people have said in different articles, because Cher was still very young, she wasn't even 18 yet, and Sonny was definitely up there in age. I believe he was in his 30s, and they used the whole she came to be a housekeeper at that young age as a thing, but they were a couple. You know what I mean? So we'll talk about that further in the video. Cher's first single, Ringo, I Love You, which she released under the name Bonnie Jo Mason, was produced by Spector. Many radio station programmers turned down the song because they thought that Cher's deep voice was just too deep, and that they thought she was a man, guys. They thought it was a gay man singing a love song to the Beatles drummer Ringo Starr, which, Cher and Sonny did become close friends, if you know what I mean, and then fell in love. On October 27, 1964, in a hotel room in Tijuana, Mexico, they held their own unofficial wedding ceremony without any priest or anything like that. Even though Sonny wanted Cher to be a solo artist, she asked him to perform with her because she had stage fright. Cher hid her nervousness by looking at Sonny on stage, and she later said that she sang to the people through him. Why do you guys think they had that unofficial wedding, I really do believe it's because, now if they were dating in this time, it would probably cause a lot of controversy because of the age difference. But at the end of 1964, Cher signed with the Imperial label of Liberty Records, and Sonny became her producer. The song Dream Baby, which came out as a single under the name Cherylyn, was played on the radio in Los Angeles. And after recording I Got You, Babe, Sonny and Cher went to England in July 1965 on the advice of the Rolling Stones. Cher said, they told us that Americans just didn't get us, and that if we wanted to make it big, we'd have to go to England. Literally overnight, they were stars, especially because of Cher's fashion. So I Got You, Babe climbed to the number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart, and Rolling Stones listed it as one of the 500 greatest songs of all time in 2003. As the song pushed the Beatles off the top of the British charts, English teenagers started to wear clothes like bell-bottoms, striped pants, ruffled shirts, industrial zippers, and fur vests like Sonny and Cher. And as soon as they got back to the US, they were on the teen pop shows like Hula Baloo and Shindig. Their shows brought in people who look like Cher, like girls who ironed their hair straight and dyed it black to go with their vests and bell bottoms by making a clothing line. Cher showed that she could do more creative things. Sonny and Cher were immensely popular in that era, and Gina Belafonte of Time magazine called them rock's it couple. They had sold 40 million records together, but the wave didn't last too long, unfortunately. By the late 1960s, Sonny and Cher's songs were no longer at the top of the charts. The decision to be monogamous during the sensual revolution and their stance against substance use at the height of the, drug culture made them less popular with American teens. Because like I said, Cher did not drink or smoke. So that didn't really make her popular because that's what was all the craze. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? That during this era, you would not be popular if you didn't promote this kind of culture. That's crazy. And so many lives were lost during that era too, due to it. According to Bigo, in spite of all the revolutionary unisex clothes, Sonny and Cher were quite square when it came to, substance and substance use and sensual activity. Square meaning they were lame and boring to the public because she was dropped from Imperial Records in 1969, the same year that Sonny and Cher were dropped from Atco. However, Atco wanted to sign Cher for a solo album. 3614 Jackson Highway was recorded in 1969 without Sonny's help. Mark Demmings of AllMusic called it arguably the best album of her career and still calls it a revelation. So a little jealousy maybe. Maybe Sonny was a little jealous because after that happened, he stopped Cher from putting out any more albums for Atco because he didn't like 3614 Jackson Highway album because he didn't have much of a say-so of the song, so I guess. By then, Sonny started to date other people, and by the late 1960s, their relationship was starting to fall apart. People magazine reported Sonny kept trying to get her back by saying he wanted to get married and start a family, and they were officially married after she had Chaz Bono on March 4th, 1969. So they were never really officially married until she had a kid. As their fame started to dwindle, so did their romance. The two put together a nightclub act that sounded and looked more grown up. Writer Centra Wilson says, people started heckling them because their lounge act was so terrible. Then Cher started shouting back. Sonny would tell her off and she would yell at him. The trash talking became a high point of the act and drew people to watch. Television executives took note and the couple began to make guest appearances on primetime shows where they displayed a new sophisticated and mature image. Cher actually wore sultry low-cut dresses that became her trademark. After seeing Sonny and Cher as guest hosts on the Merv Griffin Show in 1971, CBS head of programming Fred Silverman offered them their own TV show. The Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour started at August 1st, 1971 as a summer fill-in show. And during its 3-year run, more than 30 million people watched the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour every week. The timing of the comedy was praised, and Cher made fun of Sonny's looks and, his height while being funny. Berman thinks that they radiated warmth, playfulness, and care, which only added up their charm. And when their son Chaz, and by the way, did you guys know her son Chaz transitioned because he was born a girl named Chastity? He transitioned, before he transitioned, he came out as a, gay, like he liked other women at the time because he was a woman at the time. And Cher was pretty open to it. And then after that, he came out and said, I feel like I should be a man and transition. Cher did express that. She had some sadness about it at first, so she accepted it because she was like, I don't want to not recognize him as my daughter. And then she even requested that he kept a recording of his old audio, voicemail audio, so Cher can hear his voice when he was a woman.
Chaz Bono, born Chastity, bravely revealed to the world that he was gay, and later revealed he was transgender.
I have friends with like a billion gay people, but until you go through it with your child, that's a kind of strange thing to feel like the child that you know is a new child that you have to get to know.
Yeah, so back to the topic. So they had their son Chaz show up on the show, and it made people even happier, when they were on the show. It looked like they were a great, happy family. Cher still kept pushing with her solo career, though, and her second U.S. #1 single, Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves, ranked #1 on the U.S. Billboard Hot 100 at the same time as on the Canadian singles chart also. In 1972, Cher released the all-ballad set, Foxy Lady. Cher's first single from the album of the same name came out in 1974. It was called Dark Lady. It topped the Billboard Hot 100 and became Cher's 4th #1 single, and at the time, Cher was the female artist with the most #1 singles in U.S. history. So let's get back to their rocky marriage. So since late 1972, Cher and Sonny's marriage had problems, but they kept up appearances until 1974. People still think they were married, although they weren't. Sonny wrote in his diary at the time, Sonny filed for divorce in February 1974, citing irreconcilable differences. A week later, Cher filed for divorce and accused Sonny of involuntary servitude, saying that he kept money from her and didn't give her all of her money for all the work that she made. She also felt like she was a golden egg for him, like a golden goose, a goose that just popped out golden eggs, was making him money but not getting that much in return. In the end, Cher got custody of Chaz. Their divorce was finalized on June 26, 1975.
After her roommate moved out, Cher welcomed the invitation to be Sonny's housekeeper. Before long, they became inseparable and soon began recording music. Sonny and Cher had 5 songs in the top 50 at the same time. In 1967, the couple had sold over 40 million records worldwide. Though cracks in their relationship began to show, from controlling her career to wandering eyes, they became engaged, promising family life. They seemed the happiest family, but under the surface, it was fractured. Rumors of Sonny's unfaithfulness to Cher seeped into the public sphere.
But when we get on the show, it's nothing but ridicule, So,
Well, from now on, all that's going to change.
You mean that?
Yes, it's going to be ridicule at home, too.
After catching Sonny cheating, Cher mustered the courage to go solo. 1974, Cher had discovered that Cher Enterprises, the corporation formed by Sonny, was 95% owned by her husband, with the remaining 5% held by their lawyer. Cher filed for divorce and charged Sonny with involuntary servitude.
Now, as far as who she dated after, Elvis Presley personally asked Cher to come to his Las Vegas concert in 1976, and Cher said in an interview with David Letterman that Presley asked her to come and that she was about to do it, but thought, no, I don't want to. Then she told Letterman, I've been sorry about it ever since. Cher dated record executive David Geffen for 2 years. During that time, he got her out of her business deal with Sonny. Geffen got Cher a deal with Warner Bros. Records worth $2.5 million, and she started working on her first album for that label in 1975. Cher came back to TV on February 16, 1975 with a solo show on CBS. It was called Cher and started out as a special with Flip Wilson, Elton John, and Bette Midler as guests. So early reviews were positive. The Los Angeles Times wrote that it was terrible for Sonny to be without Cher. On the other hand, Cher without Sonny might be the best thing to happen to weekly TV this season. Her show ended after less than a year, though, and was replaced by a new one where she worked with her ex-husband, Sonny. She said, doing a show by myself was more than I could handle. And also, she had this issue where she felt like single Cher doing a show by herself was under a lot more scrutiny for everything that she did versus when she showed up as Sonny's wife, a married woman, which shows society how they have more respect for married women, single women, which is trash. Cher married rock musician and co-founder of the Allman Brothers Band, Greg Allman, on June 30th, 1975, and this was 4 days after her divorce from Sonny was finalized. But she did ask for a divorce after only 9 days because he had problems with substance use and alcohol, but they got back together after a month, and on July 10th, 1976, they had a son named Elijah Blue. The Sonny and Cher show, where Sonny and Cher got back together on TV, premiered on CBS in February 1976, so like a year after she got married to Allman. It was the first time a divorced couple had their own show together, and even though the show did well in the ratings when it first came out, Cher and Sonny's insulting on-screen banter about their divorce, her supposedly expensive lifestyle, and her troubled relationship with Allman did cause a lot of public backlash that led to the show's cancellation in August 1977. Cher's next album, I'd Rather Believe in You and Cherished, which was a return to her pop style at the request of Warner's producers, did not sell well. So Keith, maybe, the scandal, the backlash really did not do well for her. So Keith Tuber of Orange Coast Magazine says, a weekly television series can be a disaster for a recording artist. People could see and hear these artists without buying their records because they were on TV often. Basically, too much exposure, and that's what happened to Cher. Her relationship with Almond ended, and the pair was divorced in 1977. Cher was having a hard time now that she had 2 kids, 2 failed marriages, so she put her dreams of being a rock singer on hold for a while, signed with Casablanca Records, and made a comeback with the single Take Me Home and the album of the same name, which took advantage of the disco craze. Both the album and the single were huge hits right away. They stayed at the top of the charts for more than half of 1979, and the RIA gave them both a gold rating. Even though she didn't like disco music at first, she changed her mind after it became popular. She said, "I never thought I'd want to dance to disco, but it's great. It's great dancing music. I think that everyone wants music that they can dance to." And speaking of disco, please check out my Donna Summer video because she was the queen of disco, okay? She actually does this, and I love Donna Summer, okay? So check out that video also. I'll put it in the end card. Once the video is over, you can just check that out. So Cher and Meatloaf released a duet called Dead Ringer for Love in 1981, and it reached number 5 on the UK singles chart and was later called one of the most inspired rock duets of the 1980s. Even though it didn't sell very well, Vigo said that Cher's 1982 album, I Paralyze, was her strongest and most consistent solo album in years. And after this collaboration, Cher decided to focus more on her acting career because she wasn't selling as many albums and didn't have any hit singles. Cher later recalled, "I was making a fortune on the road, but I was dying inside. Everyone kept saying, 'Cher, there are people who would give anything to have standing room only at Caesar's Palace. It would be the pinnacle of their careers.' And I kept thinking, yes, I should be satisfied, but I wasn't satisfied." End quote. She did found her own film production company called Isis in 1985, and the movie Mask, her next movie, was her first critical and commercial success as a leading actress. It got to number 2 at the box office. Cher starred in 3 films in 1987. The 2 last films ranked among the top 10 highest grossing films of 1987 at number 10 and 5 respectively. And for the movie Moonstruck, Cher won the Academy Award for Best Actress and a Golden Globe Award for Best Actress Motion Picture Comedy or Musical. By 1988, Cher was one of the most financially successful actresses of the century, receiving $1 million per movie. That year, she put out the fragrance Uninhibited, which made about $15 million in its first year of sales. And by the end of the 1980s, Cher was mostly getting attention for her provocative lifestyle, with all that she had going on. So she also got attention for dating younger men. She dated actors Val Kilmer, Eric Stoltz, and Tom Cruise, as well as hockey player Ron Duguay, film producer Josh Donen, Bon Jovi guitarist Richie Sambora, and bagel baker Rob Camilletti, who was 18 years younger than her from 1986 to 1989, and the press would not let them live. They would not let them live because of such dramatic age difference,
Cher turned 40 in 1986 and fell in love with a young man nearly half her age, a 22-year-old bartender and aspiring actor named Rob Camilletti.
I was like this struggling guy.
You gravitate to the people you gravitate to. People like who they like. If I was a man, we wouldn't even have this conversation. That sucks out loud.
I promised her a long time ago. I said, I'm never going to do anything that's going to bring you any bad press or get you in trouble. I'm like, we'll never sell her out. And here I'd done it.
When it comes to the religion of Cher, she has a pretty confusing... It's pretty confusing because she herself did not for a very long time subscribe to any religious organization. But over time, she has embraced the Hindu practice, though she said she doesn't practice as much as she would like. She doesn't believe in organized religion, and she doesn't believe in heaven as a place. She also doesn't believe in God as others do. When she does speak about these things, she speaks as if it does exist, but like she's a skeptic of it. In a Dick Cavett interview, she did state that she's not into mysticism or a spiritualist, which Dick Cavett actually held her feet to the fire about it and was like, it seems like everyone in Hollywood is a spiritualist or into mysticism, etc. So he wanted to know. He was grilling her faith in that interview, but Cher was very open. She said that she's not into that, but she does pray. I do have the question because she says she does pray, but she also doesn't believe in God as we do or heaven. So then it gets you to ask, who are you praying to? Which God are you praying to?
When I say, do you have any morality, I don't mean it funny like, but do you have a moral code for yourself?
Yes, I try and be nice to people, and I try and tell the truth. Not that I'm nice constantly, because God knows I'm a bitch on wheels sometimes. You just are.
What about all the tremendous opportunities in the business that almost nobody can resist when they get as successful and famous and are as attractive as you are to freak out?
I'm not very promiscuous, and I don't know why. Sometimes I'd like to be, but it just doesn't work out that way. It just doesn't.
Right. Did I hear you say one time I inherited a sort of Puritan streak from my old man?
I think I inherited from my mother, who was married 8 times. The two don't make a lot of sense, but my mother is kind of puritanical in a way. I'm very interested in religion, and I think someday I might write something about that.
Interested in it
Mhm.
without practicing it?
I practice it in my own way. I don't belong to an organized religion. Organized religion is kind of like country clubs that people belong to. I feel really connected to every person I've ever known, and I feel that religion is one of the single most causes to divide people up for no real reason. I'm sure if God exists in a certain way that we feel that he does exist, I think that he doesn't really care one way or another what religion we belong to. I can't imagine that if you're not a Catholic, you're not going to get into heaven if there's such a place. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
If you knew you had a fatal disease, do you think you would pray?
Sure. I mean, I don't have a fatal disease now, I don't think, and I pray.
You're religious in that sense, but not in the
Yes.
organized way. Are you superstitious at all? It seems to me almost everybody in the business is.
No.
That's a relief.
Cher has been known to, there's a lot of edits on TikTok, on YouTube here of her doing like the Baphomet hand symbol, the devil horns, and the 666 symbol as well in many photos, and even very strategically, you have to always look at her hands in these photos because it's very strategic for a lot of people. So they're like, though she's saying she doesn't believe in organized religion, it's clear that she's under which organization she's serving under, right? Cher discovered a sanctuary with Buddhism's serene teachings. Her initiation into Buddhist practices in the late 80s marked a pivotal shift, not just in her personal life, but in her worldview. Now, in terms of her political views, she is going to ruffle a lot of feathers, okay? She's a registered Democrat. She supported Hillary Clinton, Biden, all of those, right? And she was against the Bush presidency, which she said almost killed her, took her life out there. And there's no one she hates more than Trump. Well, maybe Madonna, but we'll get into that later. But she has spoken out against Trump so much and said that she has no well wishes for him, only ill wishes. She has such strong feelings for him that she just really dislikes this man.
Experiencing the Bush presidency that, according to Cher, had almost killed her, made her an outspoken critic of Republican ideals.
You shouldn't say anything against the commander-in-chief, but as far as I can tell, he just thinks we're going to be in war. This terrorist war is going to go on forever. So it kind of means you can never say anything bad about the government again.
There are people in America now that they don't even have food. They're losing their apartments or their houses because the government's given them no money to live on. If your president doesn't care if you live or die, that's a pretty hard pill to swallow because you're just sitting there going, why isn't someone helping me?
What I'm saying to women is get your friends and vote. Because if you don't, you will not recognize this country and you will lose everything that you just now take for granted, every right that you have. And I'm not being dramatic. I'm trying to impress this upon you because you've been through a time, you live in a time where you have freedom. When I was young, my mother worked, but you didn't get a chance to have a career. Very few people had a chance to get a career. So I don't want to see this happen to you. And this man will take everything. I have never seen anything like it. I have never seen anything like it.
He made people that just disagree enemies. I couldn't be friends with someone who voted for him or believed in him. I just couldn't. If I had a husband, I'd leave him. My feelings for him are so strong that, boy, it's rough. I have no goodwill for him at all.
And so I know that, when I was young, Vietnam was happening and nothing happened to stop it until we got into the streets. I know you can stop this because the power of the people is bigger than those.
People are doing things that I never thought they would do. I mean, we're as close. Like I always used to say, this is a bloodless civil war. He has turned our country upside down. I don't know how it's going to work out. I don't know what Trump's going to do, and you never know what he's going to do. Nothing is beneath him. what Trump is going to actually do. What heinous thing will he do next? If Trump can't be in the White House, he's going to burn it down before he goes. I've lived through like 14 presidents, and I never thought that there would be a president that wouldn't care. Some man can come in with no knowledge, no character. No, he's not an American. He has no use for America.
So she is very outspoken politically, and she rallies, she does stage protests, etc. And she's very, very outspoken when it comes to her political views. As far as her influence go, did you know that Cher played a major role in developing or inventing the auto-tune for her song, Do You Believe? Yes, I was pretty surprised with that too.
Going in a new direction for a 22nd album, Cher harnessed the newly developed technology of autotune. The technique became known as the Cher effect. Originally used to mask off-key vocals, Cher's artistic use of autotune was the first known commercial use.
So it became known as her sound, and many other artists started to recreate it, which was very influential in the music business. Now, she also was the first woman, as we stated, to show her belly button on television by wearing crop tops, etc., and really skin-tight clothes. So she made it possible for people like Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, etc., to be more open and sensual with their outfits. You can blame Cher or have her to thank for how women dress now, but she's very proud of it. And she says that, she was proud to play a role in women being able to express themselves and that it's art. And she doesn't find anything wrong with it.
My clothes were shocking. What I wore was really shocking.
The reinvigorated and remodeled icon confronted the taboos of television head-on, appearing in outfits not seen on television before.
I was going to wear what I wanted, and that's what I was going to do. I just didn't care.
The exposure of her belly button on television was the first of its kind. The fashion barriers broken by Cher paved the way for the stars of today to experience limitless expression.
I was doing it then, and these girls are doing it now. And self-expression is what artists do. I think it's better for women today. They're stronger. They demand more. I think we knock down some walls, but there are more walls to be knocked down.
She also made it possible for women like Madonna to, express herself through her wardrobe and art. Although, believe it or not, she's had this long-standing feud against Madonna and has spoken out against Madonna for ages. She has not left her foot off of Madonna's neck, but as recently, I think I saw her on the Andy Cohen show, and she said that they made up. They're pretty cool now.
You have done.
There are lots of things that I respect about her. I think that she knows how to work the business like nobody I've ever seen before. And there's something about her that I don't like. She's mean. I don't like that. I remember having her over to my house a couple of times because Sean and I were friends, and she just was so rude to everybody. It seems to me that she's got so much that she doesn't have to act the way that she acts, like a spoiled brat all the time. And it seems to me when you reach the kind of acclaim that she's reached and can do whatever you want to do, you should be a little bit more magnanimous and a little bit less of a...
Madonna, to keep fit.
Well, you mean like my best friend Madonna?
Yeah. I thought that was a subtle way to drag her in, you understand?
How about dragging her in by her hair right now?
What do you think about Madonna?
That's such a loaded question, isn't it?
Fire away.
Well, no, I got into a lot of trouble. I mean, not really a lot of trouble, but I mean, someone asked me a question about her, and I said, she's really talented, she's really popular, she's really all of these things. She's also rude. Only I didn't use the word rude. I just used vernacular that's much more in my vocabulary, and it, not that I think she really even cares what I think about her, but I see a good progress in her work, and I think she's real interesting. I give her a a lot because I think I see a lot of myself in her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I see her kind of pulling herself up.
If you were her mother, would you give her a spanking and straighten her out?
Yeah, I'd probably kick her ass real good.
Now, as far as scandals go, let's speak of Diana Ross, right? Stealing her man. This is a wild story. So while Cher and Diana Ross were friends in the 1970s, Ross began a relationship with Gene Simmons, who was Cher's boyfriend at the time. And according to Simmons, the romance started innocently and developed into a relationship that ended his time with Cher. The incident ended Ross and Cher's friendship, with some sources claiming Cher was heartbroken. In 1979, Simmons, the bassist for the band Kiss, was living with Cher. When he asked her what she wanted for Christmas, she suggested he talk to her best friend, Diana Ross, for gift ideas. So Simmons wrote in his memoir that Cher told him she knows exactly what I'd like, end quote. Simmons then met up with Ross in New York, and the two hit it off while shopping and having chocolate cake, and their relationship developed very fast. In August 1980, People magazine reported that Simmons had moved on to Ross and was living with her. Cher later discovered the infidelity when she noticed Simmons was staying with Ross in New York instead of at the apartment they shared. In a 2022 interview, Simmons admitted to having acted like an a-hole and that he was arrogant and self-absorbed during that period. Yikes. And I did do a video for Diana Ross as well where we go deeper into that whole situation. Okay, so next, Cher is currently in a relationship right now with music executive Alexander A.E. Edwards. The couple first met during Paris Fashion Week in 2022. Now, here's the issue with that. Cher is 79 years old, and her boyfriend Alexander Edwards is 39 years old, resulting in a 40-year age gap.
Look, I'm 78, not stupid. People act like I don't know what's going on around me. Please, I've been famous longer than most of these gossip writers have been alive. Yes, Alexander's younger than me, and yes, people have things to say about it. But let me tell you something. I don't care. I'm not here to make anyone else comfortable. I've seen those clips, and honestly, people will dissect anything. Maybe he wiped his mouth. Maybe he was fixing his face. Maybe he just sneezed. I don't know. And you know what? I don't need to know because I know how he treats me when no one's watching. Everyone's got a theory. He's using her. He wants her money. He's too young. She's too old. Whatever. I've had more men than most women have had shoes. If I'm with someone now, it's because I want to be. And as for his past, please, if we judged everyone by who they were years ago, nobody would be left standing. I like who he is with me now. So keep your opinions. I'll keep living my life. Fabulous, wild, and exactly how I want it.
She did have the Epstein-Barr illness and chronic fatigue from overworking herself, and the industry turned against her when she stopped being a workhorse for them and withheld job opportunities. And her sister spoke out on that and was just like, you know, the industry, if you can't perform anymore, they spit you out. And Cher was like, the worst thing you could be in life is to be uncool.
Cher was finally diagnosed with Epstein-Barr and chronic fatigue syndrome.
I wasn't feeling good, and I really didn't want anybody to know, you know.
It took her years to get back to full strength.
I don't think people in the business cut you much slack for anything. You cannot be gone for any period of time without losing your place in line. It's very cutthroat. Couldn't get work, couldn't get acting jobs. People thought she had sold out. You know, all the stuff on Saturday Night Live, the skits and the stuff on David Letterman.
The worst thing in the world is to be uncool. And I was just completely uncool.
I'm curious to know, though, with that being a workhorse and performing and, you know, her sense of morale, because she's been also very open about how many people she's been with, slept with in the industry, like the list, you know, etc., in many interviews. And she's been accused of being promiscuous, and she's spoken out. You know, a lot of interviewers hold her feet to the task and ask her about her morality because in terms of her influence, she promoted that liberal free, she's a feminist to the core, right? She's pro, don't tell me what to do, you can't tell me what to do, I do what I want, and power to the women, power to the people, etc. And, you know, being with who you want to be, loving who you want to love. So with that said, she went through Hollywood a lot, you know, with a lot of people. So it's funny, though, how in the 70s, people were very blunt and cutthroat in interviews, and they would just ask her to her face, are you loose? My goodness, the 70s was a time. Now that would be so unpolitically correct to ask in an interview. You walk on eggshells, right? But these interviewers were cutthroat. But she did speak out on that, and she stated that she minds her business and she doesn't mind the business of other people. So people should mind their business when it comes to her affairs and what she decides to do. The IRAA gave Heart of Stone, Cher's 19th studio album, a triple platinum rating. Its second single, If I Could Turn Back Time, had a highly contested music video since Cher performed on the battleship USS Missouri while seated on a cannon and wearing a leather thong that displayed her tattooed buttocks. The song was #1 in Australia for 7 weeks, #3 on the Billboard Hot 100, and one of Cher's most successful singles overall. So in the movie Burlesque, Cher's first musical movie since 1967's Good Time, one of the 2 songs she recorded for the movie soundtrack, You Haven't Seen the Last of Me, went to #1 on the Billboard Dance Club Songs chart in January 2011. This made Cher the only artist to have a #1 single on Billboard chart in each of the last 6 decades, from the 1960s to the 2010s. Wow. Cher was given a Kennedy Center Honor Award on December 2nd, 2018. This is an annual award given by Washington, D.C. to artists who have made significant contributions to culture. And at the ceremony, Cyndi Lauper, Little Big Town, and Adam Lambert gave tribute performances. Cher announced on Twitter in 2018 that she would be working on 4 new projects over the next 2 years: a Christmas album, a second album of covers of ABBA songs, and an autobiography and a movie about her life. Cher's main charitable efforts have been to support health research and improve the quality of life for patients, fight poverty, fight for veterans' rights, and help children in need. The Cher Charitable Foundation gives money to international projects like the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund, Operation Helmet, and the Children's Craniofacial Association. Rob Sheffield of Rolling Stone said, "There are no careers even close to hers in the history of pop music." He called Cher the one-woman embodiment of the whole gaudy story of pop music. Phil Martyr of Goldmine magazine says that Cher has been and still is one of the most dominant figures of the rock era. What a woman, right? What a career, what a lifespan. And she's still doing big things. I didn't even put all of her accomplishments in this documentary. I didn't want it to be that long, but she has accomplished a lot, has done a lot, has put out a lot. And who knows, just like Madonna's trying to have a resurgence, we might see Cher just have a resurgence in her career once again in this new decade. Please comment your thoughts, what was interesting to you. Like, subscribe, don't forget to share with a friend. And if you like the music you're listening to, the link is in the description. I love you guys. Thank you. Until next time.